If there's one thing Rain does exceptionally well, it's the fact that it creates a really unique world. It often feels like a mixture of Ico and Limbo because of the setting and basically the overall gameplay. Rain takes place in a world that is constantly raining, thus the name. And the only way to see yourself is to walk into the open and let the rain fall down on you. The problem with this is that monsters can see you in the rain. In order to bypass them, you need to walk underneath awnings, roofs, and other areas like that where the rain can't hit you. Throw in a whole bunch of puzzles based around this gameplay mechanic and a stunning visual style, and you have yourself one extremely creative video game. It goes a step further than that though, because it also gives you this really crazy feeling of isolation and dread. I don't know what type of kid you were, but I know that when I was really young, I had a thing for dark basements. I don't know what it was. They just made me feel alone, like anything could happen to me down there. And that's exactly what this game tries to do. It tries to make you feel like a child who's trapped in a place that, while familiar, is just teeming with darkness and strange creatures. While the gameplay itself is nothing too original, like I said, you basically are just solving puzzles and making your way from one area of the stage to the next, I found that the difficulty progression was absolutely perfect. The first 3 stages are really simple. You're basically trying to find a little girl. And so you're going to move a couple of objects, climb over a couple of objects, and basically hide from enemies, making sure not to step in mud, hiding from the rain whenever enemies are around, things like that. But once you hit the 4th stage and you basically find the little girl, then it just radically changes the gameplay to something more akin to Ico, which if you liked Ico, that's very good news. And from there on, I found the game to be exceptionally fun. You have to help one another. For example, let's say the little girl gets trapped. You'll have to move a ladder to have her climb down to you before the unknown, which is this giant hulking mass of a creature, can get to her. And just things like that. Like imagine just a whole bunch of different gameplay elements and mechanics wrapped around this sort of like idea of co-op. Even though it's not with an extra real person, the AI does a superb job on its own. And the other thing I want to mention is the fact that this game can be very nerve-wracking at times. Like, we're talking scarier than some of the Resident Evils. When that hulking beast starts chasing after not just you, but the little girl, especially when you're separated and you have to help one another, your heart's going to be racing. Now, there's only 8 levels in the entire game, and you can pretty much finish it in 3 to 4 hours, maybe less if you use the hint system. But when you finish the game, you unlock this like memory collection mode, which does give you a little bit of replay value. As you can see from the video, the level and art design are both excellent. The way the rain interacts with the kids is wonderful to look at. It just overall looks like a very, very nice video game. I also really enjoyed the narrative. The way it's presented is superbly stylized. And I guess I can't not mention the audio. The audio is fantastic. While there's no spoken dialogue, the ambient noise does a really good job in calming you down when there's thought-provoking puzzles to solve, or it'll drive you up the wall when that unknown giant monster is about to rip you a new one. There's also a lot of excellent piano work here, which is especially memorable. As with just about every game, Rain does have a couple of issues. One being the fact that when too many mechanics are thrown at you at one time, it can be a little hard to see. For example, sometimes when you have the rain on you, you have to move to moving cover. In other words, you're going to be invisible and have to move, and you usually have little footprints that will appear in the ground, but sometimes there'll be puddles, other times there'll just be like grass and things like that, and it can just be awkward to see exactly where you have to go in terms of not getting killed and staying undercover. Some really intelligent gameplay mechanics like the one I just mentioned with moving cover it's odd because they're introduced in one stage and then they're never used ever again. So you sort of feel like, well, why did I just have what feels like a little tutorial on this gameplay mechanic if it's never going to be used ever again? That only happens, I think, twice in the entire game, but it still felt a little weird. The other issue is with the fixed camera angles. 90% of the time they work perfectly and they offer some stunning views of all the action, but the other 10% twist and turn or cut too soon and cause you to run off a roof or walk directly into an enemy you didn't even know was there. But by and far, the worst aspect of the game is the hand-holding. I've never experienced something like this before. Die 3 times and the solution or hint is presented to you. Now you have to hit the select button in order to see what the hint is, but it's almost like the game is encouraging you to, well, cheat for lack of a better term. And sadly you cannot turn the hint system off. Now I want to mention that there was this very long and intricate puzzle where I had to go around this entire area, staying in cover, coming out, running from bad guys, all this sort of jazz. And the game was constantly like, oh, hint, hint, hint. Even though I didn't die once, it was simply because it was taking me too long to solve the puzzle. But it was the gameplay itself. It was nothing to do, I wasn't stuck or anything. It was just the regular progression of that particular point in the game. And that's a problem because you shouldn't be encouraging players to use like hint systems like that. It should be there if you absolutely can't solve a particular puzzle. So that is Rain. Overall, it is a very enjoyable game that will make you feel like a kid again and really mess with your nerves, much more so than I thought possible. If you're looking for a unique experience, I highly recommend you go check out Rain exclusively on the PlayStation Network. And as always, thanks for watching, and for the full written review, hit up projectcoe.com.